guys, it's Maddie. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome. Today I will be doing my spring wrap-up and then sharing with you the top 5 books that I read this spring. Spring was a really funny season reading-wise for me. I spent the first 2 months of spring reading at such a great rate. In March, if I can remember, I think I read about 10 or 11 books, and in April I read 9, and then May came and I read 2. May was an awful reading month for me. And that is because in May I started taking up writing a lot more seriously, and I've been finding it hard to balance writing and reading at the same time, so May was an awful reading month for me, but March and April were pretty decent. So let's just get into all the books that I read in the spring season in order from when I read them. So first we're going to start off with March. So the first book I read in March was Onyx by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which is book 2 in the Lux series, and I gave this one 4 stars. I read Twilight, the graphic novel, volume 2 by Stephanie Meyer and Young Kim, and I gave this one 4 stars. Orange, volume 5 by Ichigo Takano, I gave this one 5 stars. Haruhiro Astronaut by Ichigo Takano, I gave this one 5 stars. Silent Voice by Oima Yoshitoki, I gave this one 4 stars. Far from the Tree by Robin Benway, and I gave this one 5 stars. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, which was a reread, I gave this one 5 stars. Ouran High School Host Club Volume 13 by Bisco Hattori, I gave this one 5 stars. And then I got to Volume 14, I gave this one 4 stars. The Edge of Never by J.A. Redmersky, I gave this one 4 stars. And the last book I read in March was Shadows by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which is a novella in the Lux series, and I gave this one 4 stars. Moving on to April, the first book I read was Oblivion by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which is a companion book to the Lux series, and I gave this one 4 stars. A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, the second book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, another reread, I gave this one 5 stars. Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, I gave this one 3 stars. Oblivion 2 by Jennifer L. Armentrout, another companion novel to the Lux series, and I gave this one 4 stars. Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, I gave this one 5 stars. The Evolution of Mara Dyer, the second book in the Mara Dyer trilogy, and I gave this one 4 stars. And the last book I read in April was Professed by Nicola Rendell, and I gave this one 3 stars. And then lastly, we have May, the 2 books I read in May. The first one is A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas, which is a novella in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I gave this one 5 stars. And the last book is Chevalier by Brie M. Lewandowski. I gave this one 4 stars. So those are all the books that I read this spring. Now let's get into the top 5 books that I read this previous season. It was really hard to make a top 5 for this one because, as you might have noticed, I gave the majority of these books 4 or 5 stars. There was nothing below a 3 star, so I had a lot of great books that I read in spring. But I managed to choose 5 of them. I will be sharing these in order from least favorite to most favorite, so let's just get into it. Coming in at number 5 is The Edge of Never by J.A. Redmersky. This is a new adult contemporary book. I hadn't read a new adult book in so long, so I was really eager to get into this one because I was starting to get into the mood of reading new adult, and I'm still actually in that mood. I've just been really getting into new adult more lately, and this was a really good one. This is one that I have heard about a lot, so I had been really wanting to read it, and for the most part I wasn't disappointed by it. This one is about a girl who is really fed up with her situation. Back at home, her life pretty much sucks and she's just tired of it, so she decides to take a spontaneous road trip by herself. And on the bus on that road trip, she meets this guy who she doesn't get along with at first, but eventually, because this is a romance book, they end up getting to know each other more and they end up liking each other. And she spends the majority of this road trip with him, with this complete stranger. I really like this one because it had a lot of dark moments in it. The only slight problem I had with the book is that The love interest says something that makes him come off so controlling and arrogant, and it really caught me off guard, and I didn't really like it. That's the only gripe I have with this book, but everything else I just really enjoyed. It was a lot of fun. This is the first book in a trilogy, and I haven't gotten to the second book yet, but I want to really soon. And the third book isn't even released yet, and I'm not sure when it's going to come out, but I will get to the second book because I'm really interested to. Coming in at number 4 is Onyx by Jennifer L. Armentrout, the second book in the Lux series. I really enjoy this series, and because Jennifer L. Armentrout is my favorite author, I don't see how I couldn't. It's such a fun series. If you don't know, which I'd be surprised if you didn't know about this book since it's probably her most popular series in books that she has out there currently. This is a series about a girl who realizes that she is living next door to aliens who are in the form of humans. So this is a supernatural paranormal series. If that is something you're into, I'd highly recommend this one. I've only read the first 2 books in this series. I keep meaning to get to the third one, but new books come my way and I push that one off to the side, thinking I'm going to get to it soon, but I keep putting it off. So I really need to change that because I'm really eager to find out how the rest of this series goes. Coming in at number 3 is Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. This one took me by surprise, and the reason I say that is that this book is written in verse. I have never read a book like this at all. I know there is quite a collection of books out there that are written in verse, but I had never read this one before. So I was a little scared going into it because I didn't know if I was going to like it because it was written in a format that I had never read before, but I ended up really enjoying this book. This book is about a boy and his brother has been shot, and he wants to take revenge on the person who he thinks killed them by shooting them. So he leaves his apartment, he takes the elevator down to the lobby of this apartment complex, but as he goes down the elevator, he sees a vision of people he knew that have died in the past, and each person is kind of giving him insight on why he shouldn't go through with shooting this person. So on each floor down to the elevator, he meets a new person. It is so interesting, and the way that the story is told in verse was so captivating. It was written so beautifully, and the topic of it just really touched me hard. This is a book that deals with gun violence, which I think is a topic that is so relevant to our world today based on the fact that we've had so many school shootings throughout the US. This topic is so relevant. So I feel like I read this book at just the exact right time that it hit me so hard. It was so good. If you are someone who loves reading poetry and books written in verse, definitely read this one. Also, this book took me maybe a little over an hour to read because it's written in verse, so it was really easy to fly through. I just really enjoyed it. So much so that I really want to read more poetry books. Coming in at number 2 is a book that I expected to be on this list even before I read it. That is A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas, which is the novella book to the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. So this was my most anticipated book of 2018. So I was hoping I was going to like it, and I did. I was afraid that I wasn't going to, just because I didn't really love A Court of Wings and Ruin. There were a lot of parts about it that were disappointing, so I was really scared that I wasn't going to like this novella, but I ended up really enjoying it. Not a lot happens in this book. It's basically just the characters going through their everyday lives. I would call this book a slice of life book. There's not a lot of action, not a lot of plot, but I love this book because of the fact that we just focused on the characters. Characters and character development are my favorite things to read about, so that's most likely why I enjoyed this book. However, after reading this book and looking up reviews on YouTube and Goodreads, I was really shocked because it looks like the majority of the people who have read this book didn't like it. And my mind is kind of reeling from that. Yes, this book doesn't have a whole lot of plot and action, but it was so much fun because we just got to hang out with the characters. And so many people, from what I've seen, love these characters. So I was just really surprised that a lot of readers didn't like this book and were disappointed by it. But I, for one, was not. I really, really liked it. And I am for sure looking forward to the 4th book in the series that, based on hints in this book, it's going to be following Cassian and Nesta. I am so pumped for that because these characters just need to get together already, and I have a feeling we're going to see that in the 4th book. I'm so excited for it. And the last book, and my favorite book that I read in spring, oh, I love this book so, so much. I'm so glad I finally read it. That is Far From the Tree by Robin Benway. This is a YA contemporary about these 3 siblings who have never met before. They were each adopted into different families pretty much from the moment they were born, so they've never met each other. But they end up finding out about each other through their adopted families, and they want to actually meet up and get to know each other. So they end up finally meeting in this book when they are teenagers, and this book is just all about them coming to know each other, coming to love each other, and it is just a book that will give you all the feels. I love that this book really takes on the topic of family and family dynamic. Each of the siblings in this book pretty much has their own story about how they deal with being in adopted families, as well as other issues that they face in their life. This is one that I would really recommend if you're looking for a book that has family dynamic in it, because those types of books are so hard to find in YA. This one is such a great example of a book that takes on family dynamic and the struggles within family, but also the beautiful relationships that these characters experience within their families and that the siblings experience with each other. It is so good. I'll definitely reread it someday. So those were the top 5 books that I read in spring 2018. I will be back with another one of these videos, as always, at the end of summer. Really looking forward to how my summer reading is going to go. The only problem, as I mentioned before, is that I've been really taking up writing and writing a novel. So the way I'm predicting summer to go, I'm likely not going to be getting to a lot of books. But either way, I will still have one of these videos because, of course, I will be reading no matter what. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below for more bookish-related videos. And also be sure to click that bell notification down by the subscription button so that you are notified when I post new videos. If you want to hear more from me outside of YouTube, be sure to follow my social media, which is Instagram and Twitter. Both of the handles for that is Miss Maddie Reads, and the links to those will be down below in the description box. I'll be back really soon. Bye!